Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Ascentis TV. On this episode, we've got Mark over in picking up both the tech talk and the tax tip as he takes us through making tax digital for self-assessment. John Oddy continues his disc profiling workshop, and I'll finish things off with AdminMin. So let's jump straight into Mark Overend's piece on making tax digital, and he's got an interview lined up with FreeAgent to talk everything MTD ITSA.
Hi, welcome to this month's tax tips. This month, not only is it tax tips, but it's also tech talk. We've taken 2 slots in the agenda so that we can talk about something that's coming up on the horizon, which is making tax digital for income tax. MTD ITSA, if you like an abbreviation. This affects the self-employed and it affects landlords. It's a significant change to how information is sent to HMRC, and it's something that is going to require action on behalf of all clients who have rental property or who have self-employed income. Because it's such a significant change and it involves the use of technology, I'm not going to be doing this by myself. I've been joined by Dougie McMillan from FreeAgent, who are a software provider. Dougie, welcome to Ascentis TV.
Hi, Mark. Thanks very much for having me.
No problem. Dougie's here to help us unravel what MTD ITSA means for everybody. First of all, Dougie, I've mentioned it applies to landlords and to self-employed. Can you just give us a bit of more information about exactly the criteria for what will bring people into MTD ITSA, what the criteria are for meeting the requirements to do this?
So basically, the long and short of it is as long as you earn over £10,000 in turnover, you will be required as of the 6th of April 2024 to keep all your records digitally. That means using compliance software like FreeAgent in order to do so. During the course of the year, you'll be required to file 4 submissions to HMRC, followed by a final declaration and then a final submission. So whereas previously you or your clients will have had to file a self-assessment, there's going to be much more required in the way of submissions to HMRC. So a wee bit more work is going to be required, I'm afraid.
Okay, so you mentioned deadline 6th of April 2024. That's when this starts, isn't it? HMRC expect us to be in a position to be ready to make some filings from that date. So I think from my perspective, we need to be bringing things together much sooner than that and getting prepared. Would you agree?
Definitely. It's a bit of a bone of contention for a lot of accountants. Ultimately, this is a huge change, not only for accountancy practices, but for the way that people run their businesses. People that may not actually even consider themselves to be business owners. If you imagine you're a landlord, you have a property that you just happen to be renting out for £12,000 a year, £1,000 in rent. Ultimately, in HMRC's eyes, that is considered a business, and you will have to start using software which previously you may not have been using to record any outgoings and incomings. So you need to get used to using software like this and comfortable in doing so. So yeah, it's a change, and the sooner I think that people start using software, the better it is for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a big culture change, isn't it? If the average landlord currently used to perhaps just recording transactions in their bank, they often send us a set of bank statements with a few receipts attached at the end of the year. The slightly more organized might have a spreadsheet detailing income and expenses. But HMRC are saying that's not going to be good enough record keeping going forwards, aren't they? They're saying you need to be able to not only record these things digitally, but send a quarterly submission to HMRC that tells them the total income and the total outgoings for that quarter. And that's something that people are going to have to get used to recording digitally first in order to be ready to send it from the 6th of April. So yeah, it's a big step change in how people keep their records.
I think I have to say, though, I mean, it's a scary prospect, maybe for some, but the entire point of FreeAgent and what we do is to make that process as easy and as comfortable and almost as enjoyable as possible. So it's not going to be scary. It will just be a change, but a change for the better.
Okay, that's good to hear. You mentioned there's going to be quarterly reporting to HMRC.
Yeah.
For people who are in business, sounds a bit like sending a VAT return quarterly.
Mm-hmm.
Presumably, FreeAgent therefore is set up. It's going to be designed to allow these quarterly reports to be made to HMRC.
Yes, absolutely. At the moment, it's not required, but it will be. But we have a number of sole trader clients that are working with HMRC's pilot project to make sure that everything is tickety-boo and up and running and working perfectly by the time that it is required.
Okay, so I'm a landlord. I'm filing my quarterly reports to HMRC with my rental income and expenses. If I'm also a limited company owner, does this mean the end of my self-assessment tax return? How am I going to report the rest of my income?
It's a good question. So basically, as far as I know, you are going to have to continue doing everything that you currently do with limited company. But with regards to the property, you will have to now do the quarterly submissions as we've already spoken about, similar to the VAT returns that you have to do for the limited company. But then at the end of the year, you will have your final declaration, which will compile everything that you submitted during those 4 quarters. And then on top of that, you'll have your final statement, which will basically pull everything in from the limited company and then submit it to HMRC with your information from the landlord side of your business. So it will compile the two. Yeah.
Yeah. So fundamentally, we've got a situation where we're still going to have to make a submission to HMRC. It might not look like the tax return that we currently file, but there's going to be an end of year submission that summarizes our annual income, which is effectively what we do now. But on top of that, we've got an extra 4 submissions to make once a quarter, where we've got rental income or we've got self-employment income, and we've got to do that in year effectively. That's very much an increase in administrative burden on everybody, really, everybody concerned. I know at the moment it doesn't mean an acceleration of income tax payments. The tax payment deadlines are still going to stay the same for now, although I suspect that this may be a precursor to us moving towards more real-time payment of tax, if you like, in the future. We'll have to wait and see on that one. So having said that it's going to be an administrative burden, we've obviously going to have some solutions to that. Dougie from FreeAgent is here for a reason. First of all, Dougie, do you want to tell us a bit more about FreeAgent and how potentially this is going to help us with this scenario?
Yeah, sure. FreeAgent was set up 15 years ago by 3 IT consultants, all working down in London at the same time. They were clients of a rather large accountancy practice who were required to work with a very complicated spreadsheet at the time, and in order to comply with the requirements of their accountant and ultimately submit everything to their accountant. But they felt that there had to be an easier way of doing things, and so FreeAgent was born. Now we have a business of 300 employees, all UK based, developing a software that is aimed at the UK tax system. We've got the best support team in the business. We're very proud to say we've also got the best mobile app in the business, and we've got direct bank feeds with all the major high street banks, which a lot of our competitors don't have. But we are, again, very proud to sort of stick our head above the parapet and sort of say, you know, we've done this and this is what we're about. So what we've gone and done over the last couple of years is develop a MTD compliant piece of software, which means that when it's going to be required by your clients, they'll be able to file quarterly and submit their final submissions to HMRC in time and easily. And I go back to the point that I made earlier on, that everything that we do is easy. And I'll show you this in a minute, but we don't, for instance, use any accounting terminology within the software to keep things simple to understand, because not everybody is educated in the way that an accountant may well be. So they don't know what, well, simple example is a credit and debit in one instance can mean something very different in another instance. So within our bank feeds, rather than using the words credit and debit, we use money in and money out just to keep it simple. So there's no confusion there. Anyway, so as I said, yeah, FreeAgent's as simple and easy to use as possible, while giving your clients as much relevant and up-to-date real-time information as possible. We were the first to have our submission process up and running. And again, as I say earlier on, we've got a number of our sole trader clients working on the HMRC pilot that will make sure that everything's up and running and as smooth as possible when the time comes that you're going to need to make these quarterly submissions.
Great. So it sounds like the software hopefully is going to take away a lot of the pain of administering your income and expenses going forwards, and complying with the law in terms of being able to meet the requirements of the filings for making tax digital. Are there any additional benefits to using FreeAgent other than simply complying with the law?
Absolutely. You save time. At the moment, as a micro business owner, you've got your self-assessment at the end of the year, and you've got this one sort of final submission where ultimately it's a bit of a scramble to get everything pulled together to pass to your accountant. From what you said earlier on, Mark, you mentioned that this is a bit of an administration burden. The way that we see it is that it's not at all. You're doing a little, but you're doing a little often. And in order to make that as enjoyable, for want of a better word, as possible, I mentioned earlier on that we've got the mobile app that helps your clients keep on top of everything. About 95% of what you would normally need to do within running a small business using FreeAgent, you can do from your pocket. You can send invoices, you can send estimates, you can record timesheets, you can keep on top of your bank feeds and reconcile your bank transactions. You can renew your bank feeds. Like I say, everything from within the pocket. It comes with the software. There's no additional charges or anything like that. So if you imagine, rather than saving the receipts to send to UMark at the end of the year, you just take a photograph of it from your mobile app. And then you can just scrunch up the receipt and throw it in the bin, because you've now got a record of it, and that's immediately visible by the accountant within seconds. All the data is automatically scanned and saved on FreeAgent, and is actually even assigned to the transaction within the bank feed. So there's very little that actually really needs to be done by the end user or your client, Mark. It's very simple and very easy. So yeah, like I say, doing a little more often will make the entire experience as pleasurable as it can be.
Okay, great. Well, I think given what you've just said there, Dougie, it'd be handy if we could just have a look at the software and just see how it works and how easy it is to use. So we'll just jump onto a quick demo now so that we can show how FreeAgent works and how it can enhance your record keeping.
What I'll do is I'll just share my screen. Make sure that you can see that.
Yep.
Okay. So this is the landlord license that's recently been released. What we have here is the overview screen, which gives you a overview of what's going on in your business. You have 5 different tabs here. Each of these you can move around to suit how you might want to make the screen look. What's more important to one person is less important to another, so it's entirely up to you how this screen looks. But generally what we've got here is a look at your incomings and outgoings overall within your property over the last period of time. You can change that from 12, 6 to 3 months. And then on the right-hand side here, you can see the totals, the incoming, the outgoing, and the balance there. This tab here is the banking tab. Again, you can switch between the various different accounts that you've got bank feeds set up for. And again, you can switch to all accounts or just specific accounts, just to have a wee look at what's going on within each of those accounts. Again, here on the right-hand side, you have different tabs within this box. You've got your invoice timeline, just to see what's due in and what's overdue and what's been paid. Any time slips, estimates, or projects there. Here are your bills and your expenses. Here is your tax timeline. This would be populated with any impending liabilities that you have, such as the self-assessment or anything like that that's coming up. And here is the P&L for the specific business. Here you can have a click onto the full report, which I'll show you later on, but these are all basically just various different links to other areas of within the software that you can go to. And again, you've got your quick links up here in the top right-hand corner. This second screen is possibly one of the most important. It's the property screen, where you will have each of your properties listed. When you click on each of the properties, you can see here P&L for that particular property. You can look at the various accounting years or an overview of all time periods. But again, just on this overview screen, you can see the income and the expenses, and then obviously the profit here. But then you've got the breakdown per property. and you can see how profitable each of the properties are that you own. The contacts here this is your address book. When you click on each of the contacts, you can look at each of the transactions that relate to each of these contacts. You can get a statement of account here and even a full account history. This is ultimately where you would also have your tenants, and we'll come on to the tenant thing and the invoicing in a second. The work button is basically the day-to-day goings on that you might be involved in with running each of your properties. Something here that's particularly relevant is obviously the invoicing and the recurring invoicing. So if you wanted to send an invoice to your tenant, you can do one-off invoices here, but also more importantly, you've got the recurring invoices. So the recurring invoice is dead easy to set up. You can see I've set one up here for a tenant, Jack Bonner. He is at West Wallaby Street. We're charging them £700 a month, and this invoice will be sent on the 17th of every month to Jack, and we set payment terms up for 7 days. It's never going to end until such time as they leave the property. So you can set up a recurring profile right there and then, but also to help you keep on top of this, you can also set up reminders. So if Jack doesn't pay within 7 days, you can send an automatic reminder to say, "Oi, where's my money?" Simple as that. You've got your bills right here. You've got your expenses, and you've got your banking here. So your bank accounts. To set up a new bank statement, to set up a new bank account, again, it's a very easy and simple process. You click on New in the top right-hand corner, you give the account a name, and you put in your account number, your sort code, the opening balance, and you create the new account. When in the bank account, though, what you can do in order to set up the bank feed is you click up here, and you can see all the major banks that I mentioned earlier on, all the high street banks that we have direct bank feeds for. So when you click on the name of the bank, you will connect to the bank automatically, and they will set up a feed going straight into FreeAgent. And I stress this is 100% secure. So that's pretty much it as far as banking is concerned. When you click into each of the bank accounts, you can see the transactions here. FreeAgent has artificial intelligence, which you can turn off or you can turn on, I stress, but it explains your transactions for you. So for instance, if you have a Vodafone bill that comes in, it will automatically reconcile that as a mobile phone bill. Again, like I say, though, you can turn that on and off if it's something that you want to do yourself, but the accuracy is, again, around about 95 to 97%, and is going to get better the more and more it's used. So I'd encourage you to leave it on, see how you think about it, and then if it's something that you're not comfortable with, then you can switch it off. Here we've got our taxes. You've got your self-assessment there. You've also got your accounting reports up here, and this is where the full P&L is available to you. And again, you can look at this monthly, quarterly, annually, and then you can also compare various time periods against another just to see how the business is running. So as I said, it's it's a simple piece of software. You'll notice that there's no accounting terminology within here. but is a very user-friendly piece of kit that will help you keep on top of everything, rather than using a spreadsheet going forward.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's fantastic. Thanks for that, Dougie, and thanks for joining us today to go through FreeAgent. Just finally, if that's whetted people's appetite and they want to have a look at the software themselves, and what's the best way to do that? What should they do if they want to go and have a look at it?
Speak to you, Mark. I think I would get your clients to have a chat with yourselves. You can come and have a look at our website, freeagent.com. But Mark, you can set your clients up with the software, obviously. One thing I would mention is that FreeAgent was acquired by the NatWest Group 3 years ago. If you have a NatWest, an RBS, an Ulster Bank account, you get FreeAgent for free as part of your banking package. Also, there's Metal. Metal is a online account, which is a business account, is entirely free. There's no transaction charges, no monthly subscription charges. But again, your clients can download the app, they can open an account, and again, on the top of that, they also get FreeAgent for nothing. It's only available to sole traders and limited companies, but also is available to landlords. So it's something that, again, that might be of interest to your clients. But I would encourage to have a look at the FreeAgent website, but also to speak with yourself, Mark, and get a license open. Have a play around with it, and it should work.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Dougie. Yeah. So, as we said, this is something you need to have in place by 6th of April 2024. Really, the sooner you address this, the better. If you want to talk to us, certainly contact myself or any of the income tax team here at Ascentis, my colleague Leanne, and I will be happy to talk to you about this and help you in setting things up. FreeAgent's there as a piece of software that's hopefully going to make our lives a lot easier in terms of complying with what we need to do for HMRC and MTD for ITSA. But for now, Dougie, thanks for your input today. It's been very valuable.
Thanks very much for having me. Good
no
to speak
worries.
with you.
All right. And we'll be back next month with more tax tips.
Thanks for that, Mark, and also Dougie at FreeAgent. If anyone's got any questions on that, please feel free to get in touch with Mark direct or any of the tax team here at Ascentis. So, now it's time for the third instalment of John's piece on DISC and using DISC profiling to create a highly functioning team. Last episode, he took us through the I profile, and in this episode, he's going to take us into detail with the D profile.
Hello everybody, and welcome to episode 3 on Ascentis TV and our series on DISC and personality profiles in the workplace. It was that famous psychologist from the 20th century, Carl Jung, that said, until we make the unconscious conscious, it will direct our lives and we'll call it fate. DISC makes the unconscious conscious. It makes you self-aware, and therefore how you can develop highly productive relationships in the workplace. You'll also remember that at Ascentis, we do not believe that your team are your greatest asset. Rather, we believe that your greatest asset is your ability to attract, develop, and retain the right people. This is echoed in Jim Collins' groundbreaking book, Good to Great, where he compares a business to a bus and says that you've got to get the wrong people off the bus, the right people on the bus, in the right seats, and all facing the same direction, which is the achievement of the business's goals. But we also know that the singular biggest problem in achieving business goals are dysfunctional teams. DISC is the antidote to that dysfunction. So today we're going to look at the dominant style or D style profile. I'm also going to introduce you to the 8 priorities that surround the DISC chart as well. Each individual is strongly associated with one of these priorities, although they are typically influenced also by another 2, sometimes more, but typically 2. And you'll see that this dominant style individual here prioritizes results. but they're also influenced by action and control. You remember from episode 1 my elevator story, where this dominant style person ran ahead of everybody else into the elevator and was jamming away at the door close button before anybody else could get in. That's because dominant people communicate with others directly and indirectly in a very decisive and forceful way. And in any exchange that you have with a dominant style person, they're going to be listening to this internal voice that's saying to them, what's in it for me? What value will your product add to my business? What value will your service add to my business? How will this help me achieve my goals? What results will I get? So let's bring that to life with some examples of people that we all know. The late Steve Jobs was infamous for his determined, strong-willed, forceful style of management. And that's what made Apple the company that it is today. Or Michael Jordan, who was able to lead his basketball team to consistently deliver world-class levels of performance. And that dominant style he took into his business life after he retired from the sport, and he's a major success with that as well. Now, those great qualities that the dominant D-style personality has also have to be viewed from the opposing personality type, and none more polarized than the S-type, the supportive type. You can see that they prioritize support, but they're also heavily influenced by stability and collaboration. Supportive S-type people value relationships over results. They believe the results will be a byproduct of having great relationships. They prioritize support, and they're influenced by stability and collaboration. So you can see how that D-style personality can be interpreted by a supportive person as blunt, insensitive, outspoken, critical, and where it spills over, even rude, selfish, and dominating. But what if the dominant style person was more self-aware? His unconscious was conscious, and he knew how his behavior may affect somebody with a more supportive style personality. He could change his communication style and empathize with the individual to have a much more productive relationship. And similarly, what if the supportive type person was also self-aware and understood that the dominant style person was not being rude and insensitive? This is just their personality style in terms of the way that they communicate because of what they're trying to achieve. They're trying to achieve results for the organization, just like the supportive person. They just do it in a different way. So let's put that into context with a simple example. D-type person speaking to S-type person, dominant to supportive. I've got a meeting tomorrow at 1 p.m. and I need the X reports on my desk by 11 a.m. so that I can properly prepare. Please can you put that to the top of your to-do list? Now to me that sounds perfectly reasonable, but I am also a D-type person. I'm actually ID on the chart right at 12 o'clock. But to the S-type person, that could be interpreted like this. Despite the predictable way that your workload was planned for the next 24 hours, I'm suddenly telling you to change all those plans to suit my needs and to ignore any priorities that you had. But if the D-type person is aware that they're speaking to an S-type person, then the D-type person may have made the request something like this. I've been placed in a really difficult position regarding a meeting tomorrow and I need your help. Now, I know that the X reports are usually produced by you on a Friday, but the meeting's being dragged forward and I'm going to need them by 11 o'clock tomorrow so that I can properly prepare. Can you and I sit down and look at your priorities for the next 24 hours, see how this can be fitted in, and maybe even get some other members of the team to help with some of the other jobs that you've got to do? Through his DISC assessment, the dominant style person has now made the unconscious conscious. He empathizes with the supportive type person and he understands how his style of communication can be misinterpreted. He now has a much more productive, collaborative working relationship with that supportive type person. Imagine if the S-type person had also had a DISC assessment done and they were also self-aware. These two very different individuals would then enjoy a much more productive relationship. They would be unoffended by each other's communication styles, sharing a common goal and drawing upon each other's strengths. Now imagine the power of giving each individual in your organisation a DISC assessment. You would build a team who are empathic, understanding, trusting of each other's motives, who engage in productive, healthy, dispassionate debate, which leads to commitment to the cause and buy-in, leading to accountability and a focus on results. Next time we're going to look at the influential or I-style profile. So I'll see you then.
Thanks for that, John. Loving the DISC profiling workshop to date, and especially some of these high-profile celebrities that you're referencing too. Looking forward to the next episode already. So, to wrap up the episode, we've got all things compliance related with AdminMin.
Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of AdminMin. All our compliance deadlines detailed out at the bottom for you there. That employment related securities deadline probably just needs a bit of clarification. That means you need to file a return and send it to HMRC if you've had any share dealings, if you gifted any shares or sold any shares to anyone by virtue of their employment with you. The VAT deadline is as standard, but as previously mentioned, we do have to file all VAT returns that started from the 1st of April using Making Tax digital software now. And we've got that 31st of July deadline looming. That's the second payment on account for self-assessment tax. We've still got a bit of opportunity there to do some tax planning and try and avoid that or reduce that if possible. A couple at the end for you there. There's always funding out there, and the LEP website is a great source of direction for that. One of their incentives is the growth grant. That's between £10,000 and £50,000 worth of funding available to help businesses grow and create new jobs. Their deadline is the 30th of September, although it will end if all the funding has been allocated before that. Those also that are fortunate enough to live in Bradford are probably aware that there's a clean air zone going to be in place from September time. Businesses can apply for an exemption, but it's an application form you need to put in. You can get an exemption for up to 3 commercial vehicles, so well worth it for anyone that has multiple vehicles within the business. You can still avoid paying a charge if you make an application with the Bradford Council. That process is now open, so jump onto their website and look at getting an exemption through that. See you next time.
Okay guys, so now you're all up to date. That wraps up this episode. Thank you everyone for watching, and we'll see you next time.